Hey, I just want to make sure that you pause to read the disclaimer that I'm putting up right now, and you can look in the description for links to any of the things or articles that I will be discussing in this video. It's just very interesting how little leeway you get as a small channel. But once you have 25 million subscribers, you know, people make excuses for rich people, businessmen all the time. They're like, oh, but they're a businessman. They have to own a business. Oh, but you know, they're this famous YouTuber. You know, they got a lot of weight on their shoulders, as if smaller people aren't dealing with more.
Markiplier himself may or may not be greedy, ego-driven, or any number of things, though no one knows for sure. But this should highlight the—
He may not, though no one knows for sure. Yeah, you're not being neutral when you say this shit.
But humans don't naturally want to think of themselves as greedy or attention-seeking, so they'll attempt to relieve this cognitive dissonance by justifying the fact that they want to become a YouTuber for other reasons.
And this is coming from the guy who never told us his reason. He's saying, oh, you know what, Markiplier, you know, his intentions might be like this, but other people are using it in a way that's, you know, not that good. So that means that you don't think that he's one of those people, or else you wouldn't spend so much time distancing him from the way that everyone else is using it. You're saying that everyone else is using cognitive dissonance, but you're saying that he probably isn't, or he might not, or he might, but he might not. But most people are, but he might or might not.
To help others. This is the common mantra a lot of small channels will do. They say they want to help people with depression by making them laugh and being a go-to source of entertainment. And obviously, yeah, that'd be heartwarming. But these YouTubers are lying to themselves if they think that's the biggest reason they're making content.
Except for Markiplier. Maybe not, but except for Markiplier. He might not be, but everybody else.
If people who talked about this all the time truly cared about helping depressed people, there are a million ways they could extend help since there are countless support campaigns out there. But, oh right, I forgot, donating to charity won't get you thousands of fans who worship the ground you walk on.
Except for Markiplier, maybe not. Like, maybe Markiplier, maybe not, I don't know, but everybody else, but not Markiplier, maybe not.
Plus, if these kind of people did donate to charities, it'd probably be clear as day because they plaster that shit on Twitter for weeks just to convince themselves they're decent people.
Except for Markiplier, maybe not.
But that being said, you might wonder what kind of channels I'm referring to, and given the fact that it's all impossible to tell whether Mark is being genuine, you might also wonder how I know these people—
It's impossible to tell, I don't know, but everybody else that I'm talking about—
tell whether Mark is being genuine. You might also wonder how I know these people are the fakest human beings alive. Well, let me break it down logically. If there was a person—
people are being the fakest people alive—
who truly saw YouTube as a means of acquiring fame or money—
this is Daydreamer87—
then going in, the type of content they would make would be fairly irrelevant because their motives don't stem from any genuine interest in the content or the joy of creating it. So, with that—
What?
If there was a person who truly saw YouTube as a means of acquiring fame or money—
this is Daydreamer87—
then going in, the type of content they would make would be fairly irrelevant because their motives don't stem from any genuine interest in the content or the joy of creating it. So, with that in mind, they'd probably just pursue making whatever types of videos require the least amount of effort and are best at grabbing massive amounts of views. To me, Let's Players, reaction channels, vloggers, streamers, and even podcasters come to mind. Now,
except for maybe not Markiplier. Except for him, but all the stuff that he does, that other people do, yes. Pattern of behavior for them, not for him for some reason. That's my evidence. Like he just said, the reason why I know these people are fake is because they're doing all the shit that he's doing, but he's the only one who's not fake. Like, do you not see the cognitive dissonance? Seriously, it's right in front of your fucking face. You're so sure about everyone else with the same fucking evidence, but not Markiplier, because that's not enough evidence for Markiplier. Because if you noticed, he put Matthew Patrick on the screen and didn't excuse him. He's excused Markiplier so many times in this video, and he's going to continue to do so. But he didn't excuse Matthew the 2 or 3 times that he showed his face. So are you insinuating that Matthew Patrick is a fake-ass YouTuber as well? You seriously mean to tell me that someone who actually gives specifics on their opinions, unlike you, is faker than a man who gives nothing but empty platitudes in situations that don't affect him personally? Okay. Like, I can't stand idiots like this guy. He doesn't see the blatant contradiction that's right in front of his own face.
if there was a person who truly saw YouTube as a means of acquiring fame or money, then going in, the type of content they would make would be fairly irrelevant because their motives don't stem from any genuine interest in the content or the joy of creating it. So, with that in mind, they'd probably just pursue making whatever types of videos require the least amount of effort and are best at grabbing massive amounts of views. To me, Let's Players, reaction channels, vloggers, streamers, and even podcasters come to mind. Now don't get it twisted, I'm not saying the majority, let alone everyone who makes these types of videos is a shallow, greedy person looking for fame. I just mean that if a person were looking for an easy format to jump into, these would be potential options because they aren't nearly as time-consuming as other types of content. And again,
the reason why he just backpedaled from this is because he also makes that type of content. So if you were to take him at his word, you would have to assume that he's also the kind of person who just wants to be rich and famous. And honestly, I wouldn't put it past him because he's projecting a lot in this video. He just got done saying, I know that this is why they're doing it. But it's not everybody. The point that you're making, regardless of how much you want to backpedal so that, you know, people aren't like, you said everyone, you can't prove that. You know, you're saying that it's highly likely that anyone who does that is probably, to some degree, greedy and selfish. Even if you just said that they can even convince themselves that they're not with cognitive dissonance. So, with that being said, it means that those people are highly likely to be selfish, but they could also be bullshitting themselves into being selfless. But you're not going to phrase it that way because that sounds a lot more negative than saying, well, not everybody.
And that's not to say this content is inherently lazy, since the channels that are most successful in their genre will typically go the extra mile to ramp things up for the sake of quality.
Quality entertainment.
But the people who go into it as a means of getting fame...
Yeah, the extra mile isn't really that much more. Like, even showing Chadtronic, it's really not that much more. You know, even iDubbbz described his and Leafy's level of editing as dog shit level editing. So, no, it isn't the extra mile. It's like an extra step to make your content look different so that it can be more memorable for more exposure. Because, you know, you're doing the same shit as everyone else. So, if you don't switch up the visuals a little bit, no one's gonna remember you. Is honestly like a form of manipulation.
Typically don't have passion for their craft, and upping the quality at the cost of putting out less videos will inevitably slow their potential growth.
I am the best of YouTube.
The reason I point to these genres in particular is because they have very few barriers to entry and can be done in a lazy manner.
Now, as you can already tell, these types of videos do not sound good.
Juxtapose that with something like animating, which even when done in the laziest manner possible still requires some level of skill, hard work, and dedication. At least more so than the majority of these people are willing to put forward. And if you wanted to spot these guys in a metaphorical crowd, they're the ones whose content was made with the idea of, let's see if I can just record myself doing something I already do on a daily basis, slap it up unedited on YouTube, and get famous.
Understand that this is all speculation, you know, which everybody says you can't do. We're all allowed to speculate. But I'm just making the point that he's making these speculations for everyone except for Markiplier. Like, everything he's saying can be applied to him. It's ridiculous. Like, it should be applied to him. It means that it's highly likely that his motivations for the stuff that he does is the same as everyone else. And you know how he said, even the most simplest of videos have some level of editing in them, so he actually means with minimal editing. I'm saying this because people are going to claim that he didn't mean small channels, he just meant channels that don't edit. Yeah, because even though he said...
To me, Let's Players, reaction channels, vloggers, streamers, and even podcasters come to mind.
And those are all genres that require some amount of editing. I'm supposed to believe that he's only talking about people who don't edit their videos. Like, he's just all over the place because he's a coward who can't stand by his own bullshit convictions.
Hey, I play games all the time. Why not record it and make a career? Hey, I watch other people's videos all the time. Why not record myself doing it and milk the algorithm? Hey, I sleep every night. Why not stream it? Hey, I do things. Why not record it?
Hey, I have opinions and react to stuff. I think things. My name is just Jargon. He knows if he shows any channels with an actual following that haven't already been exposed, he will be criticized. It actually is shit content, but he's saying, well, they add a little bit more to the video, so maybe it's not shit. I don't know, maybe not. So he's showing the bottom of the barrel as examples, specifically to avoid criticism, and separating himself from those channels since he's starting to grow now, despite doing the same thing. And at that point, why even make the video in the first place? Because you're a perfect example of the antithesis of objective information. And I get that he might want to say, well, if I share my opinion, I might be criticized. Okay, but you're like criticizing everyone else. Like the fuck.
If you ever watch a video and find yourself wondering why the person would have recorded it since it's just stuff everyone does every day, with nothing new added in post and no unique spin taken,
like, he's only blunt about the shit that everybody already agrees on. You know, standing in front of a green screen, just sitting there. Everybody's gonna agree with you on that, so you'll be blunt about that. Everyone's gonna agree with you about somebody sleeping at their chair, so you can say that bluntly. But when it comes to things like Chadtronic or, you know, with Markiplier and all that stuff, you're like, well, but let me be neutral. So you're not actually a neutral person, because there's times where you're not being neutral. You're just doing the neutral thing to avoid criticism. When you actually have your own opinion, but you keep backpedaling from it and trying to pretend as if it's not as bad as it is because you don't want people to have an issue with what you have to say. And that's why I'm just so sick of this positive bullshit, because it's just another way for people to, you know, enable problems.
And no one in their right mind would bother watching it? Well, it's because they want money. It's because they want to help people and have a positive impact while making...
You see how blunt he is about this? Like, all those channels, he's like, they want money. I mean, and then he says it sarcastically. He would never say something about that with, you know, these bigger channels that are mostly liked. Because if you do that, it's like, you know, career suicide, as some people have said before. And speaking of unoriginality, this is the same guy who has the most basic fucking character design. Like, how are you going to criticize this guy's art when you are literally a floating head? He even puts his face over a crumpled piece of paper, the same as I Hate Everything does. You know, just because you're the anime version of primming doesn't mean that you put that much more effort into your art or your character design. Some people just draw better than others. Everyone gets better over time. I Hate Everything's art was pretty bad at first, and now his character looks a lot more clean cut. Like, his criticisms are so low blow and hypocritical, it's ridiculous.
And no one in their right mind would bother watching it? Well, it's because they want money. It's because they want to help people and have a positive impact while making content that, if anything, would probably worsen the mental state of anyone forced to watch it. And because, you know, if they can make a
He literally said it would probably worsen the mental state if anyone were to watch it. Like, that's how blunt he's being about the stuff that everyone agrees on. And that's why I can't stand most commentary channels, because they're not genuine.
video and do something they do daily at the same point in time, then why not? Must work for them, because they don't care about the videos themselves.
It's a poorly made video by some newbie wanting to get a bunch of hits on YouTube. It's not good.
An example of where to find these types of people is on crowdfunding sites, since they'll usually spend as little time.
I don't care about this. I'm just going to skip through to the other point that he made. Oh, that was another thing. With this part, it's like Markiplier is letting a known bully. Everybody knows that he was like a famous bully. And everyone's okay with it because most people like him. So Markiplier is allowing, he's like, I care so much about people. But this guy who's made fun of people who didn't deserve to be made fun of, people with mental illnesses and children, I'm gonna let him put his arm around me, and I'm not going to tell him, yeah, I don't want to associate with you because you hurt people. How much do you care about people, really? I'm just saying. Seems like you don't actually care about people, and you just care about what personally affects you. iDubbbz isn't personally affecting you, so you'll let him put his arm around you. But if he was personally affecting you, you wouldn't anymore. Like, that's why he's like, yeah, you can do a content cop on me. Well, what the hell is he gonna say about you? Like, pretty much no one's made videos on him except for me. Because no one talks about this shit. This guy in this video just said there's no evidence of Markiplier being, you know, self-centered. When there is, I showed it. No one's actually gonna make a video on it, so of course he's gonna say, yeah, go ahead. Because nobody looks at this stuff. Everybody lives in the moment. They don't critically think about anything. But he's gonna let him put his arm around him and says that he cares about people. Alright.
I do a content cop on you?
Not at all, in any way. Feel free.
Now you might wonder what all this has to do with Markiplier himself, since I haven't mentioned him directly for quite a while. And the answer is nothing, because he has no direct involvement in this, but has inadvertently given lazy channels a means of justifying themselves.
And this is the part where he just admitted that his entire purpose of making this video was to attack small channels. And I was talking to one of my friends about how, you know, the whole purpose of his video was just this attack, and she phrased it perfectly. You know, the hypocrisy of him being the very thing that he's criticizing. She said, well, I have to attack them for it because they're doing what I'm doing, and if everybody else is doing it, then I can't do it, so I need you to stop doing it so that I can be successful. And that's exactly what it is.
What all this has to do with Markiplier himself, since I haven't mentioned him directly for quite a while. And the answer is nothing, because he has no direct involvement in this, but has inadvertently given lazy channels a means of justifying themselves. Now look, there's no...
He has no involvement in this. Again, so when he said that whole maybe, maybe not, he kept saying maybe, maybe not to do the false neutrality bullshit, but he actually doesn't think that he's responsible, and he just proved it there. Like, he just blatantly fucking said, he has nothing to do with it. So that's the end of that. All that maybe, maybe not shit was you just blatantly lying to everyone.
Nothing wrong with what he's saying or doing, and it's more of an unintended consequence of other people seeking out attention. But just keep this in mind. Most of the people who perpetuate the Markiplier mentality for their own selfish desires will eventually stop once the money piles up enough for them to gladly toss their morals to the side. That, or they fail and quit.
And that's the other thing. He says that or they fail and quit. I've seen channels, like small channels that I used to be subscribed to, of people who have quit YouTube, and they actually struggle with depression for a very long time. And so they would, you know, sporadically upload. And then when they would come back, they'd be like, you know, I've just been really depressed. And I feel really bad for those people because some of them don't come back. And I'm wondering, you know, did they do something to themselves? Like, what happened? People don't always quit YouTube just because I didn't get famous. You know, some people use YouTube for an outlet. Some people use YouTube because they have other motivations and things in their personal life just affect them, and then they quit because some people quit life. Some people just commit social suicide or actual suicide. Just show you one other example that I didn't even realize when I was recording this. People also leave because they just have better things to do or they want to branch out, you know? It's not just the depressive stuff. There's also like more positive reasons. Sometimes people just change their mind on what they want to do. But, you know, here's a famous YouTuber who even left YouTube just because he wanted to go do other things.
Most people know I'm one of the OGs of social media, and I've been blessed to find success on almost every major platform since MySpace. I still got people upset at me for leaving MySpace to use YouTube. I got people upset at me for leaving YouTube to use Vine. I got people upset at me from leaving Vine to use Instagram, or leaving Instagram to use Facebook. These are not gangs, people. These are platforms where people use to just put their content. Although some are better than others because they take different and better care of their creators, you have to love the artist and not where the artist performs. That's like getting upset with a musician because his or her song is playing on a different radio station. You don't think that artist want to be on every radio station?
And it's just, you know, to perpetuate this standard as if you stop making videos, you're just somebody who's like, oh, I'm not making any money. That's not the reason for everyone. And you're going to do this false neutrality shit with all that bullshit with Markiplier. But you're not going to look at the other side of why people quit YouTube because you don't understand it. Like, you're not one of those people. It's honestly projection. He's basically thinking, well, if I quit YouTube, it will be because I'm not making any money. So that must be why everybody else quits. I'm going to just leave it there. Good job.
Which is much more likely of an outcome, but the Markiplier mentality dies out either way if a person doesn't believe what they're saying. Because eventually they'll succeed and won't need it anymore, or the fact that they're not getting fame will drive them to quit. So I guess this vindicates
See, he just said that. He said that that's what will drive them to quit. Like, he reiterated it.
himself, unless he's all been doing it as a PR move. You know, if he's been doing it as a PR move since he hit, 10,000 subscribers.
See, he just said, if this is all just a PR move since he hit 10,000 subscribers, this is his real opinion. He's saying he's been, you know, doing this stuff since he was small. So he couldn't possibly be egotistical about it. Well, like I said, studies have shown that the richer someone gets, the more apathetic they are. These people develop narcissism over time. And the thing is, honestly, people who bullshit themselves, no matter what it is, even if it's just a persona of yourself, that is a false reality and it will affect everything else around you that you interact with. If you do that long enough, you become delusional. And I do need to make a video on that and talk about that more. But yeah, you become more delusional over time. And that will affect your psyche and how you respond to situations in the future, which does connect to why people are so apathetic and things like that, because when they're constantly creating a world that's centered around themselves, they're not really focused on other people's problems. And if that selfish mentality gets you to fame and fortune, it makes sense why you become more and more apathetic as time goes by, and why people like Markiplier will have sympathy for some people losing their channels unjustifiably. When it happens to him personally, all of a sudden he cares. That's why if he loses someone who's close to him, he's gonna have an issue with it, of course, because he cares about that person. But when he sends people to their fucking death during a pandemic, it doesn't really matter. Didn't mean to, so whatever.
He really stuck to it. He kept it going for a long time.
He stuck to it. A philanthropist. Somebody who became famous for donating to charity, because that's the first thing his fans always mention. And yes, obviously some games help to boost his career like FNAF, but one of the key defining characteristics that are always brought up for why people support him and why he has such a cult following is because he's extremely charitable. I shouldn't have to explain this because even just Jargon said it himself.
He grew popular by posting Let's Play content at a point where the algorithm had coincidentally shifted to favorite. But despite this being the source of his monetary success and name recognition, his kind-hearted reputation was a result of how he carried himself within these videos, and the inclusivity he promoted outside of them. The Mark becomes widely loved as he has, combined with the fact that he consistently organizes events such as charities, which give a direct outlet for the group power that he emphasizes so much.
He's actually gaslighting here too, because he's pretending as if quitting this wouldn't make him look bad. So understand that I already said that a lot of these people develop narcissism over time. You can believe in a cause and still be a bad person. You can believe in a cause and still do bad things, or have apathy in other situations. So I believe that those are his motivations and not what I'm about to say. But just for the sake of this argument that Just Jargon gave, if someone were to randomly stop being charitable and being this person that everyone loved, they would have a huge problem on their hands, and people might actually literally come after you. He has 25 million subscribers. It could happen. So it would be likely to happen because a lot of people believe in him. And I already explained how donating to charity is self-beneficial to an influencer, but people like to put words in my mouth, so, you know. Back to whatever I was saying. So something that made him famous, he kept doing? Yeah. I'm pretty sure that if donating to charity made you $1 million, most people would keep fucking doing it. I'm pretty sure that if you kept doing something and it made you a lot of money and made you famous, you'd probably keep fucking doing it if you liked being rich and famous. Again, this whole notion that donating to charity, it's just a selfless act. It's not. Have you ever met people who are part of charity organizations? Half of them sound narcissistic as fuck. They're always like, I'm helping, I'm saving the world. I am the savior of the world. That's how they talk.
I know there's people that need me. and I want to be there for them so badly. I do. I want to bear the burden for them. I would bear it.
Like, I guess what I'm trying to say is they think that what they're doing is more important than what everyone else is doing. These people have a martyr complex. That's what the fuck I've been trying to say this whole time. I finally thought of the fucking term. It's a martyr complex, and Just Jargon is gaslighting when discussing psychology while pretending as if a martyr complex isn't a thing. Even if you didn't think of the term like how I didn't until just now, we all know what it is and that behavior exists. And a lot of charitable people tend to have that problem. They think that their charity is a special charity and like what they're doing is so special and so important, like it's all about them. And with Markiplier, you can't act like people don't worship the ground that he walks on. Come on.
This was all an elaborate ruse to fool the audience. I would give him props, either way. And yes, in Mark's case, he actually has stood by this philosophy by using his following to help raise money for charities and such, so I'm not trying to say that it's inherently a bad thing, whether it's an act or not. But what I am trying to say is that
whether it's an act or not, all this stuff that I said where I kind of prove what my real opinion is, nope. Might not be. I'm going back to that now.
It's an easy mentality to cling to when you're doing something like YouTube for the wrong reasons. You want to gain fame and attention while justifying it all to yourself by saying, no, I'm not a shallow attention whore. I'm doing YouTube to help people. I'm actually a great person. I'm doing it because I'm so selfless and...
Like, I do want to help people. That's one of the things that I want to do. But I also want to talk about topics that I think are important. I think that people, like, whether they view it as help or not, I think people need to hear what I have to say. You can take that however the fuck you want to take it, but I think that what I have to say actually matters. I think that it is important, and I think that I do have things to add to a lot of the issues that I speak on, which is me talking about me. My reasons are for myself, and then also for other people, if it were to help someone. Yeah, that's about it. Those are my reasons for why I make the videos I make, because I'm kind of sick of all this shit, and if no one else is going to say something, I'm going to say something. And if people got a fucking problem with how I say it, you can go fuck yourself.
Kind. And the most ironic bit about this whole dilemma is that when a channel is just starting out, they're receiving the least amount of attention possible, and if they're operating under the Markiplier mentality, then they'll most likely quit before they get anywhere.
Now, obviously, my highest viewed video is the amnesia reaction compilation, because that video...
But you just said that people who do this stuff are operating under that mentality. So again, you're assuming that people who make these videos are operating under that mentality, and that's why they quit. Like, now you're saying if, but you just said that people who do this are operating under it. It's not even an if. If you do that, then you probably are. He literally said, I know these people are. And then he backpedals. Like, pick one.
Alone netted me 372 subscribers throughout the entirety of my channels.
Oh my god, I don't even give a fuck.
Fame rather than a creative outlet. The videos themselves are Markiplier mentality, and you want a healthier outlook, try this. Make videos because it's fun and expect to get nowhere, because most people do.
Make videos because it's fun, you know, more fucking positive bullshit. What if you want to do something more than something that's just fun? This is, again, coming from someone who recorded themselves having an opinion. Something that everyone can do and does on a daily basis in order to quote-unquote make it on YouTube. But he's going to advise you to do the opposite because he already made it and he can now fake or feign humbleness as if that was never his intention. And it's like the saddest part about all this is that I actually fell for this shit. This whole idea to do what you love, you know, do it because it's fun. Even Markiplier has a video, I don't know where it is, but I remember he had a video where he said he likes to share experiences and that's why he's a gamer. You know, people say share your experiences, do what you love, do what you love. Don't, you know, like Just Jargon, don't expect anything out of it. And I used to make gaming and animation videos. I was really getting into parodies at the time and all of this fun stuff, and those videos generated more views for me. I didn't have to worry about my videos being copywritten or demonetized back then, but I stopped because I got pissed off one day. And you want to know one of the reasons why I got so pissed off? It's because I realized how fake this fucking world is. I realized that these people aren't doing what they love or what's fun. They're just doing what they're good at and what benefits them personally, and sometimes it just so happens to be what they like to do. Cause seriously, Just Jargon, you mean to tell me that this is fun for you? Shitting on other YouTubers, especially small ones, making false juxtapositions and gaslighting, and then on top of it all, constantly worrying about your positions being as agreeable to as many people as possible. It's fucking obvious what you're doing, and you're not doing it because it's fun. You manipulate people into thinking that you're a positive channel when you're actually just attacking people for no good reason, and you're spreading misinformation. And someone in my Discord mentioned to me, all these quote-unquote lighthearted commentary channels are full of shit. If you're going to expose toxic behavior in a lighthearted way, there's something nefarious that's going on, and you're not telling us the truth. It's like being a wolf in sheep's clothing. And he doesn't really say much about how Markiplier talks about serious shit all the time. He acts like he just does fun videos. Now, for the record, Just Jargon has some legitimacy to his theory, but his assertions are just too vague and too broad, and it just lacks so much nuance. The problem is that the accuracy of this mentality is dependent on the acceptance of the fact that Markiplier is also a part of that mentality. If you can't accept that, you'll never be able to apply this correctly. This mentality applies to big YouTubers, small ones, and in between. This mentality actually applies to most people on YouTube. It applies to people like Just Jargon. It applies to people like Markiplier. It applies to people like most of the people that you watch. And maybe I'll go into this more deeply another time to explain my take on it. But the big problem is that his judgment is too clouded to see just how prevalent this issue is. And instead of tackling it appropriately, he uses it to attack just small channels and to create a false persona of himself as if he isn't the exact same thing that he criticizes. So with all that being said, I'm just going to move on to the next thing that I want to say. It's just very interesting how little leeway you get as a small channel. But once you have 25 million subscribers, you know, people make excuses for rich people, businessmen all the time. They're like, oh, but they're a businessman. They have to own a business. Oh, but you know, they're this famous YouTuber. You know, they got a lot of weight on their shoulders, as if smaller people aren't dealing with more. It's just funny to me how once you're rich and famous, that's when you get a break from everybody. And when you're poor, everyone pushes you down because most people are miserable. They want everybody to feel as bad as they do. So they'll drag you all down with them until you fucking skyrocket and you fly. And then once you're up there, they leave you the fuck alone. They don't try to bring you down any further. They don't try to, you know, humble you. They don't try to knock you down a few pegs because your ego's too fucking big. They're like, nope, their ego's inflated. They're flying away and they have that right. Fuck it. But I'm gonna keep pulling down everybody else who's trying to do something with their life because fuck them. You know, it's... I just hate this world, so... I'm not addressing this shit anymore. You guys want to keep having an issue with why I don't like Markiplier? Well, here's a video that's explaining the whole fucking thing. So you can't say that you have an issue anymore and have any legitimacy to it. This was what I was saying in those 3 videos. So you can't take me out of context any further because I actually thought through what the fuck I had to say this time. And I've expressed it as much as I can. And yes, it's off the cuff. But if you got an issue past this point, you can all go fuck yourself, because everything I said had nothing to do with Unoriginality. I don't give a fuck about Unoriginality. Could have been any project he was working on. What he did was still wrong. So I'm done with this topic, and I'm finally nearing the end of this series. But before I finish things off, there's one more topic that I need to revisit. And this is a topic that I was hoping I would never have to return to. But there's just some things that I need to address, and I'm going to be taking a break to work on that. So I will see you all in like a month to wrap everything up. And yeah, thanks for all your support despite everything that's been going on, to the people who have been supporting me. And yeah, I'll see you all next time.